FNAF has been one of the biggest indie games in the past decade. A new movie coming out in the past winter, some of the latest entries of the game expanding its complicated lore that it continually has, and currently being one of the biggest collabs with the biggest horror game at the moment, Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight has been going on for the past 9 years, and them having one of the coolest licenses that should be called out. Tokyo Ghoul being the first ever anime chapter to ever introduce into the fog, Stranger Things currently being in the biggest Netflix show at the moment, and a part 2 coming out sooner or later. Halloween being their ever first DVD license to come into the fog. Unfortunately, it's leaving by the time I'm recording this. Other licenses that should be called out are Alien, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Chucky, and many, many more. Not to mention the cool licensed skins that we currently got into the game, such as Iron Maiden, Slipknot, the Burley Brothers, Witcher, and many, many more. But currently where I stand, all these licenses have a good representation, and unfortunately, some of the worst. But today, I wanted to talk about how the Five Nights at Freddy's antagonist, Springtrap, is by far one of the best adaptations that DVD has ever brought into the fog. I know that I'm late to the party when talking about Springtrap coming into Dead by Daylight, and it's been almost half a year since he was first announced, and there are a lot of videos that people talked about why they love Springtrap's adaptation and how some people don't really like it. Um, I know there are some other better videos that I think they're worth a kind of a shouting out, like Rock Skull's analysis on how his add-ons and how it's kind of designed overall. Bonk Buns video kind of explaining his voice lines in a more thorough and deep kind of way in the lore. And then Ryan Toast's his own personal opinion on how his adaptation of Springtrap was kind of perfect in a way for him. Frankly, these videos are a lot better than what I am gonna be pretty much showcasing. This video was initially going to be a conversation about how the ghoul, aka Kaneki, deserved a lot better in the DVD community. But I know for a fact that people would have rioted me in the comments, so I scrapped it and then continue my day playing Dead by Daylight. But then I randomly stumbled upon Ryan Toast's video initially. Out of the blue when I was just playing Killer or waiting for a queue. I don't quite remember on the top of my head right now. But his video definitely took a lot of inspiration from this, because I definitely think Springtrap had a great adaptation. As much as people complain about his power, like why he has an axe, or what he is very talkative, he is this like circus act guy, but when it came down to what his lore in the games were, he was never really this silent killer as a lot of people associated in FNAF 3. This guy was more of a show off in the way he loved to kind of like to brag on his success, on his immortality, his own creations. This guy was very weird. Springtrap has kind of expanded a lot over the horizon. William Afton, aka Springtrap, if those who don't know, his reasons for his motives are to this day kind of unclear, because right now in the lore it's complicated, because some people think he just does killing for fun, or he is out to revive his children, which I'm not going to touch into because it's a whole can of worms with the books, the games, and the movies especially. It's a whole ordeal. But today I wanted to talk about how Springtrap in his lore bio, it reads, Deep within the abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, William Afton ran from the ghost of his victims. He frantically put on his beloved Spring Bonnie costume, the disguise he wore while committing his heinous crimes to hide from the pursuing spirits. But fate had different plans for Afton. And the bio goes down more on his how he became pretty much Springtrap. But the last part of the bio is what really is interesting to me. Springtrap examined the fog. Curiosity tightened his grip on him as he stared into the darkness. His distended eyes could see shapes emerge within the fog. Who were they? It didn't matter. They were his victims now. Somehow, he knew the hunt could go on forever. All he had to do was step into the fog. This bio of Springtrap is interesting lore drops that a lot of people in the FNAF community could definitely break it down, especially when it comes to where he initially becomes Springtrap. But one thing I like about this bio is when he interacted with the fog, he didn't care what was inside. He felt a presence that he could go on a continuous murder. Thus, Springtrap springs into the fog, into the trials. As the voice lines in the game indicate,
great atmosphere.
And
the darkest pit of hell is open for business.
Now, side note, the darkest pit of hell is open for business is definitely a line straight out of FNAF 6, which is Henry's line, which he tells him right after the end of the FNAF 6. As many FNAF content creators have discussed his inclusion into the game, PJ Haywood delivers a top tier voice acting. In my opinion, I think he nailed Springtrap. He definitely delivered his lines perfectly into his cockiness.
The fear is palpable.
Into his aggression.
I will make you all suffer.
And how much he enjoys being in the fog.
I'm the fun one.
Now, this section is kind of be based on my own personal perspective and view on how his adaptation it kind of nails on the point that I think it's definitely one of the top tier adaptations to ever bring in the game. Springtrap was always known to be this cocky guy. I never really saw him as this kind of stealth silent killer because I think he was more of a circus act as shown through other medias in the franchise that we were given by Scott Cawthon. In my opinion, I thought they nailed his power as much as I think that him having a fire axe was kind of a little goofy, but it definitely took me a bit of time to realize, like, as much as I'm not a big fan of the axe, I think it's cool. The inclusion of the security doors, I think, is probably one of the coolest things Behavior has ever brought into the game. I like how it's a double-edged sword kind of vibe, where survivors can use the doors to reveal your aura with the cameras attached to the doors, and it can be very impressive at times against Springtrap. In other cases, pretty bad. The survivors can also use the doors like Springtrap, but if a survivor goes into a door while Springtrap is in it, this happens. And I like how this jump scare indication is pretty cool. I think they kind of nailed the scare aspect. He has having an insta down, pretty much getting grabbed to the doors, is pretty cool. The Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria map, I think, is probably one of the top tier maps that I personally love, and I do enjoy how Behavior inflected from the FNAF movie and for the first game into the main building. I think they nailed the design. They nailed how the atmosphere of the pizzeria looks, and especially the little side Easter eggs they have for like the ball pit, the eyes in the parts and service room, Foxy disappearing, which I am upset to this day, and the random endoskeleton in the vents, which I think it definitely terrified me the first time. Overall, I think, in my opinion, I think they nailed Springtrap with his power, his lore, and his outfits. Personally, I think there definitely could have been more from Scott Cawthon and Behavior for us releasing. I know some people would have a survivor in this game, like Michael Afton or Vanessa or Mike Schmidt and Vanessa from the movies. But in my opinion, I think it's fine with who we got right for this chapter right now. Overall, I think Behavior nailed this adaptation, and I really hope they nailed the other licensed DLCs that we could potentially get and upcoming as well. As I'm recording this, Vecna's PTB has been out, and I've been playing a lot of that. In my opinion, I don't think I'll main Vecna. He's not really my cup of tea when it comes to his power. I don't really have a preference in killer power. I just kind of main who I really enjoy when it comes to the fun aspect on their power. As much as this game kind of get very repetitive at the repetitive over and over on powers and survivor stuff, and that's a whole different conversation for me later. But in the future, I really hope Behavior nails more of the licensed adaptations, because I think if they nail the killer's power, it has potential to be their bigger, better chapters in the future. But right now, Springtrap currently was the biggest DVD chapter they ever released. I really hope they can surpass that with other future chapters, because those that were requested the most or just were given an amazing chapter release, I really hope, I really hope they do amazing. This is Wolf. This was a first time for me explaining on certain powers. I initially had the script halfway and I kind of scrapped a chunk of it because some of it was very repetitive. It was off topic and this would have been a lot longer, but Springtrap's adaptation was just great. It was absolutely great. And I really hope for the future chapters that we get in this game, I really prayed that they nailed the powers, they nailed the survivors, they do amazing in the maps. I really hope they do everything great. But as I stand, I think by far Springtrap's adaptation is probably one of the best in Dead by Daylight. And that will be all from me. Thank you for watching. And hope you guys have a good night's sleep, drink some water, and enjoy your nights. Goodbye everyone.